Justice is coming. Trey Gowdy and the House just issued a subpoena we have all been waiting for. Justice is coming to America. Congressman Trey Gowdy is known for his no-nonsense personality, which is now on display regarding the FBI's involvement in the infamous Trump-Russia dossier. The Democratic Party refuses to relinquish opinions that President Trump cheated his way into office with the help of Russian interference during the 2016 presidential election, despite the fact that no evidence to confirm their theory has been found. In order to further investigate allegations against President Trump, liberals requested a special counsel investigation, which was granted, and the lead investigator was named as none other than former FBI Director Robert Mueller, which is completely unacceptable given his clear aversion to President Trump as well as his obvious loyalty to top-ranking Democrats. Given all the facts and the inability of the FBI to provide requested documents via official subpoena, Republican Congressman Trey Gowdy has taken it upon himself to get to the bottom of things by increasing public pressure and making all the failures to cooperate well known. Having gotten no cooperation from the FBI or the Department of Justice over subpoenas for information on what has been called the Trump dossier, that means that's what caused Gowdy to act. FBI Director Christopher Wray and Attorney General Jeff Sessions have now been subpoenaed to appear before the committee and will no doubt be questioned by Trey Gowdy. Newsweek offers additional information on this matter. Quote, on August 24th, the committee issued 2 identical subpoenas to the FBI and the Justice Department, the Washington Examiner reported Tuesday evening, citing an interview with Congressman Trey Gowdy, a committee member. The committee had given the Bureau and Department until September 1st to provide the information, the report said. When the committee did not receive the information by that deadline, it reportedly extended that deadline to a second one, September 14th. When individuals and government officials refuse again to cooperate with official investigations or drag their feet in producing the evidence, it's only normal to conclude they have something to hide. That said, there is the possibility that the information demanded contains classified information that cannot be made public. But that excuse does not cut it, since any such classified data could be redacted or otherwise not made public. So what's the hang-up then? Why the lack of cooperation with the House committee that is clearly within its rights to investigate such matters? Hopefully we'll get an answer to that question in the next couple of weeks, and that's also very likely that Trey Gowdy will have much to do with extracting any information to which the committee and the American people are entitled.
Mr. Gowdy. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director Comey, you and I were discussing the felonious dissemination of classified material during the last round. Is there an exception in the law for current or former U.S. officials who request anonymity?
To release classified information?
Yes, sir.
No.
Is there an exception in the law for reporters who want to break a story?
Well, that's a harder question as to whether a reporter incurs criminal liability by publishing classified information, and one probably beyond my ken. I'm not as good a lawyer as Mr. Schiff said I used to be.
Well, I don't know about that, but the statute does use the word published, doesn't it?
It does, but that's a question I know the Department of Justice has struggled with through administration after administration.
I know the department struggled with it, the Fourth Circuit struggled with it, lots of people have struggled with it, but you're not aware of an exception in the current dissemination of classified information statute that carves out an exception for reporters.
No, I'm not aware of anything carved out in the statute. I don't think a reporter has been prosecuted, certainly in my lifetime, though.
Well, there have been a lot of statutes that bar in this investigation for which no one's ever been prosecuted or convicted, and that does not keep people from discussing those statutes, namely the Logan Act. In theory, how would reporters know a U.S. citizen made a telephone call to an agent of foreign power?
How would they know legally?
Yes.
If it was declassified and then discussed in a judicial proceeding or a congressional hearing, something like that.
And assume none of those facts are in play, how would they know?
Someone told them who shouldn't have told them.
How would a reporter know about the existence of intercepted phone calls?
Same thing, in a legitimate way, through a appropriate proceeding where there's been declassification, in any other way, in an illegitimate way.
How would reporters know if a transcript existed of an intercepted communication?
Same answer. The only legitimate way would be through a proceeding, appropriate proceeding. The illegitimate way would be somebody told them who shouldn't have told them.
What does the term mask mean in the concept of FISA and other surveillance programs?
As Director Rogers explained, it's our practice, approved by the FISA court, of removing the names of U.S. persons to protect their privacy and their identity unless it hits certain exceptions. So masking means, as Mike Rogers said, I'll often see an intelligence report from NSA that will say U.S. person number 1, U.S. person number 2, U.S. person number 3, and there's no further identification on the document.
Admiral Rogers said there are 20 people within the NSA that are part of the unmasking process. How many people within the FBI are part of the unmasking process?
I don't know for sure as I sit here, surely more, given the nature of the FBI's work. We come into contact with U.S. persons a whole lot more than the NSA does, because we may be we only conduct our operations in the United States to collect electronic surveillance, to conduct electronic surveillance. So I can find out the exact number. I don't know it as I sit here.
Well, I think, Director Comey, given the fact that you and I agree this is critical, vital, indispensable, a similar program is coming up for reauthorization this fall with a pretty strong headwind right now, it would be nice to know the universe of people who have the power to unmask a U.S. citizen's name, because that might provide something of a roadmap to investigate who might have actually disseminated a masked U.S. citizen's name.
Sure, the number is relevant, but what I hope the American people will realize is the number is important, but the culture behind it is, in fact, more important. The training, the rigor, the discipline. We are obsessive about FISA and the FBI for reasons I hope make sense to this committee, but everything that's FISA has to be labeled in such a way to warn people, this is FISA, we treat this in a special way. So we can get you the number, but I want to assure you the culture of the FBI and the NSA around how we treat U.S. person information is obsessive, and I mean that in a good way.
Director Comey, I am not arguing with you, and I do agree the culture is important, but if there are 100 people who have the ability to unmask and the knowledge of a previously masked name, then that's 100 different potential sources of investigation. And the smaller the number is, the easier your investigation is. So the number is relevant. I concede the culture is relevant. NSA, FBI, what other U.S. government agencies have the authority to unmask a U.S. citizen's name?
Well, I think all agencies that collect information pursuant to FISA have what are called standard minimization procedures, which are approved by the FISA court that govern how they will treat U.S. person information. So I know the NSA does, I know the CIA does, obviously the FBI does. I don't know for sure beyond that.
How about how about Maine Justice?
I mean, Maine Justice, I think, does have standard minimization procedures.
All right, so that's 4. The NSA, FBI, CIA, Maine Justice. Does the White House have the authority to unmask a U.S. citizen's name?
I think other elements of the government that are consumers of our products can ask the collectors to unmask. The unmasking resides with those who collected the information. And so if Mike Rogers' folks collected something and they send it to me in a report and it says U.S. person number 1, and it's important for the FBI to know who that is, our request will go back to them. The White House can make similar requests of the FBI or of NSA, but they don't on their own collect, and so they can't on their own unmask. I got that about right? Yeah.
I guess what I'm getting at, Director Comey, is you say it's vital, you say it's critical, you say it's indispensable. We both know it's a threat to the reauthorization of 702 later on this fall. And oh, by the way, it's also a felony punishable by up to 10 years. So how would you begin your investigation, assuming for the sake of argument that a U.S. citizen's name appeared in the Washington Post and the New York Times unlawfully? Where would you begin that investigation?
Well, I'm not going to talk about any particular investigation.
That's why I said in theory.
You would start by figuring out, so who are the suspects? Who touched the information that you've concluded ended up unlawfully in the newspaper? And start with that universe, and then use investigative tools and techniques to see if you can eliminate people or include people as more serious suspects.
Do you know whether Director Clapper knew the name of the U.S. citizen that appeared in the New York Times and Washington Post?
I can't say in this forum, because again, I don't want to confirm that there was classified information in the newspaper.
Would he have access to an unmasked name?
In some circumstances, sure, he was the Director of National Intelligence, but I'm not talking about the particular.
Would Director Brennan have access to an unmasked U.S. citizen's name?
In some circumstances, yes.
Would National Security Advisor Susan Rice have access to an unmasked U.S. citizen's name?
I think yes, in general, and any other national security advisor would, I think, as a matter of their ordinary course of their business.
Would former White House advisor Ben Rhodes have access to an unmasked U.S. citizen's name?
I don't know the answer to that.
Would former Attorney General Loretta Lynch have access to an unmasked U.S. citizen's name?
In general, yes, as would any Attorney General.
So that would also include acting AG Sally Yates?
Same answer.
Did you brief President Obama on, I'll just ask you, did you brief President Obama on any calls involving Michael Flynn?
I'm not going to get into either that particular case, that matter, or any conversations I had with the President, so I can't answer that.